Alrighty then, we're up and running. Sjors from the Netherlands. How you doing, bro?
Whew. On a certain level, absolutely fantastic. On a practical level, it's still pretty much a big struggle.
So a practical level, do you mean on a human level?
Definitely, definitely. I'm talking about, well, basically, what I'm talking about is the pendulum that I'm trying to transcend, the pendulum between slavery and the tit.
Right.
I'm trying to get it actually in the middle, that I do stuff with not too much pressure out of my own motivation, whatever that may mean. Just to be able to do stuff so that I'm not pushed towards the slavery part of life, and therefore less the needing of the tit to make it all good again.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, you and I, we've been speaking for many years now, and we can get very metaphysical about this world, and we're both very, very familiar with many entheogens, and so we know that this isn't the only world, and we know that this, you know, is basically Maya. But it's a very persistent Maya, just like Einstein, always used to say, it's a very persistent illusion. And so we have to learn to work within the illusion, playing the game of being a human being. And the world is governed in such a way whereby it has mostly tried to automate all of us into some sort of um, a regime that works a little bit like a clock, all nice and oiled and smooth, and the world, ticks on quite merrily. And this pretty well works for most people, but people such as ourselves, we question too much. And then we look at the world and we go, well, I'm not like that. I'm not one of these automated drones. I am a spiritual, enlightened being. What the fuck am I doing here? Oh shit. I mean, the rules are that we've got to be slaves if we're going to get along. And that's a spanner in the works, isn't it?
Yeah, that brings up a lot of resistance,
Yeah,
and that makes it nearly impossible to participate in a normal way for us.
yeah.
And that makes our situation automatically very hard, and you're gonna crash at some point, and that brings about more cleansing of the soul. But I do think reviving yourself within the Maya and participating in a way that'll at least fix your shit is still very important.
Yes, it is important because we have to comply with certain rules. There are rules here, and even if we consider that we are in a simulation, well, the simulation's got rules, and if we jump off a building, it's not going to fare well for us. If we want to step outside of the norms of society, then we're not going to be treated very well. So you see, people such as us, we have to create our own particular variety of sustenance. We have to convince the world in some shape or form that we are worthy of living. And so we have to at least obtain that. And many people throughout the years, they have wrote things. These days, people are doing videos and speeches and all different sorts of things. They are conveying a certain something to the normies, and the normies find it interesting. And then the normies allow people such as us to live outside of these normal parameters. And so, this, of course, is what I'm doing now. I make these videos and I, pay something forward to the world. I've wrote that book of which you have purchased, and I suppose you're slowly making your way through it. And we try to find our happy medium between the spiritual realm and the fiction realm. We know that we are here for some sort of soul evolution, and so we have to play the game at a degree, but we're kind of reluctant about it because it's very, very labor intensive. And if we're not too careful, then we will give all of our energy to it, and we will be depleted and exhausted when we don't want to do that because we need to retain our energy for the soul exploration.
Yep.
And so, I always speak to you about DMT. And I was out today. I went cycling for 8 miles and I'm looking at the clouds and I'm enjoying absolutely being alive, a soul, a spark of consciousness in this dimension. I find it absolutely thrilling. It's wonderful. It's incredible. It really is beautiful. And when I partake in psilocybin mushrooms or DMT, then I enter into God consciousness and I have so much more appreciation for this incredible experience, which most people appear to be dull and can you say they don't have that vision, they don't have that connection, they think that they are just these little automated creatures on the world and it's a terrible place because they have to engage in slavery and it's pain and it's suffering. But if they step outside of that and realize the magnitude of what's going on here, can people imagine this tiny blue dot we call Earth, which is just one speck of dust flying around the sun in a trillion gazillion suns in our little galaxy. And there are billions and trillions and gazillions of other galaxies. We're having this God conscious experience on this tiny little planet, which is absolutely amazing. And I've been uploading videos which I recorded down in the Algarve, where I'm looking very closely at the natural world. And down there, I was doing a lot of DMT, and I was absolutely in the midst of God consciousness. And so to be in that realm is a terrific and wonderful thing. But then when we fall back into the mundane, rudimentary level of what it is to be a human being, we fall out of that. And for spiritual people, that's the problem. We're always fighting against that.
Well, the guy that got me out of the shit that happened last year to me when I nearly lost everything, um, he calls all that tourism.
Right.
And because we come from a concrete world with no depth, only slavery and shit. So we need to get out sometimes, and that's good because you can't live in concrete world forever. That's too harsh. Um, but we also have to make a living, and honestly, I haven't tackled that fully yet. I mean, I'm sustaining myself, thank God, but I'm not yet doing it out of my own volition into the thing that I want to do. I have no idea what I want to do. I find that a very difficult question. In fact, I'm trying to run away from that shit all the time, and I'm slowly learning to stop running away from it, and then still have to figure out what I'm gonna do. Um, I think a big part of being a man in this world is generating something that you did, some achievement, and you can't just tell yourself you're okay. It's not enough. You have to write a book. Somebody else has to affirm it. Somebody else who's worthy in your own eyes. And the moment you've done that properly, that's the moment when you can settle down and enjoy the nature and stuff. Before that, it's just you can't bring people to enjoying nature in a calm way if they haven't done their inner mission, if they haven't got their eagle feather from the mountain.
Yeah. You see, what I know about you for the, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years that I've known you, that you have a flair, an artistic flair. You like to paint and you like to dance and you like to express yourself. And in your ideal world, you would get paid for that, and people would love to invite you here, there, and everywhere, and to invite Sjors to come to dance for them, or to buy one of Sjors's paintings, or to listen to Sjors how he expresses himself on this canvas and all that sort of thing. Yes, I mean, deep down, spiritual people, we all want that. It's a wonderful thing. We want people to be able to see and feel what we feel as spiritual people. But invariably, they don't and they won't, because they're closed down to it. They're dull. They're numb to it. And the only time people who are deemed to be successful in this realm usually are people that have dead or died, like let's say Rembrandt, or um, the guy that cut his ear off,
Van
uh,
Gogh.
Van Gogh, yeah, and he died in poverty, like most of these people did. And if you look at Friedrich Nietzsche, then the first book he wrote, he sold 40 copies, and most of those were to his family and friends who were embarrassed into buying it. You know, the people on this level, they can't reach the masses until there's a machine, the capitalist machine, which decides, if we indoctrinate the masses into saying and thinking that this is good, then we can sell these things to them. And that's the only time it works. It only works when you've got the machine of the evil machine of materialism, which promote your wares, if they consider that they can make money from you. If they don't consider that they can make money from you, then whatever you write in poetry or music or anything like that, it will lay dormant until one day someone discovers it. And this is a sad reflection of the world, because there's many, many people that are brilliant in many ways, but it isn't recognized, it isn't promoted. It needs to be promoted. For instance, look, my book, I say my book is the first spiritual Bible, because what my book does, it pulls together many, many brilliant philosophies and brains from around the world over thousands of years. And I speak my way through a spiritual, enlightening process. And that book would be on everybody's bookshelf if it got somebody behind it to promote it and instill in the public that it was a viable proposition. But that will probably never happen, because I don't have the money, I don't have the stature. And so that book will lie dormant probably until 100 years after I've died. Someone will discover it, and then someone will promote it, and then it will be something. That's how the world is, isn't it?
Well, you can get famous in this life if you're willing to kill some babies.
If you're willing to drink baby's blood and all that sort of thing, well, look, we know this is so true, because so many people, they defect from the whole Hollywood evil scene, and they tell the truth of what it's like. They are all selling their souls to Mephistopheles, and it's a very, very evil enterprise. And
There is
then when we
actually,
reflect upon the world, we can see that, well, the world at that level is run by evil entities.
but
And
I have to um, I have to add to that that that's a bit of a difficult thing to say as well, because my story, if you listen it through the end, there will be success in my life. That's God's promise. If you abide by the rules, you will, by grace, become the chosen one, and by the fruits they will recognize you. So I can't really be saying only the successful drink blood, because then I mean I suspect I mean I thoroughly suspect I will never drink children's blood, um, uh, wittingly, that is. Um, but I do suspect myself to gain success. And I also suspect most people that get the front page and the big stages are in the bad, so to speak. So there's a bit of a contradiction, and I don't want to predict myself to the future success of myself that I'm participating in those things, because I would never.
Yeah,
And that's a bit of a bold thing to say, because what do I know about myself? I don't know everything.
you
I
haven't been
barely know
tempted yet,
anything.
have you? You haven't been tempted yet. You see, if you was
No.
made an offer by some huge corporation, then how many of us would turn that offer down?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, another aspect is you have to dance with the devil in this life.
Yeah,
And I don't mean to say that in a way that I worship the devil, because to me, Jesus Christ is the highest, and God. And I don't, I don't feel like I can be persuaded to partake in unethical stuff. But if I can do a big commercial for Coca-Cola and I don't have to drink baby's blood, I will. So there's a bit of nuance in there.
yeah. Even though when you do the advert for Coca-Cola, you are selling something which isn't good for anybody, because Coca-Cola is of no nutritional value whatsoever to the human being. In actual fact, it's at a detriment. And so you will sign a contract, and you will do whatever you do to promote that drinking Coca-Cola is wonderful, and you'll be so happy and you'll enjoy life and all these sort of things. It's a lie. It's all a lie. And so, okay, that level of lying is on a small level. Okay, so you entice people to drink sugar. In moderation, it's fine. But people, of course, that have entered into Hollywood and the music business, they know that they are conditioned into taking this role and singing this song with these words, and that's when it becomes evil. And so, those sort of people that partake in that, well, invariably they live short lives and they pay the price. Ultimately, they don't live to be, pensioners, retiring, walking on the beach, and admiring the sunsets. They're going to die of something which is related, and so it's all part and parcel of it. But there are people, Shosh, that do make it in a certain way in this dimension, because when people have an overwhelming spirit, then people can't deny that. And it's the whole thing, of Jesus's presence. Nobody could deny his presence and the love that people felt around him and all the rest of it. And this then extends to people like Gandhi and Mother Teresa, and lots of other spiritual people like that, Yogananda, Paramahansa, and all those people. There's been lots of spiritual people that have made an impression, and it's just a case of putting yourself out there and saturating the market. But only a few people have that facility. I don't have it. You don't have it. How does this facility come about? It seems like it's a very natural thing. It's like it's preordained, for certain people. And if you look at the life of Gandhi, very arduous. And laborious, and Paramahansa Yogananda, who wrote The Second Coming of Christ in 2 volumes, absolutely a massive work. They were reclusive in their work for many, many years. And until people started to read what they'd said and then had a belief and adherence to it. And now, I'm reading Paramahansa Yogananda many years after he's died. And so, isn't this always the case? We leave something, we leave a legacy for people to pass the baton and to move forward. And so it's not really even about us at our particular time. You see, you can make art, you can make a video about dancing, you can talk about dancing, and then it will become useful in 50 years' time after your death or something like that. And so it doesn't. who are we to gauge whether we are going to reap the benefits of our work in any given time? Because this human experience is a collective experience, isn't it?
They say, by their fruits you will recognize them.
Yeah.
That is something.
Hmm.
Um, you mention a whole list of people that made it. A couple of them, I thought, didn't I hear rumors that they were bought and sold by the baddies, and that's why they got the position? I don't know about all of them. Um, that's one thing about this world. So many of the things we believe are put into question. Um, I find it a difficult. I find it a difficult thing. I hope that my sticking to the rules, so to speak, as much as I can, will bring fruit for my life. I don't have much else to say, to be honest.
When you say sticking by the rules, what do you mean?
Well, the biblical canon try to interpret how it guides me in certain choices that are presented to me,
Yeah.
like
Let
keeping my dick in my pants and stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question in relation to my book, which you've bought and you have, and you've read a tiny fraction of it. Flicking through the sub chapters, um, how is it that there hasn't been any interest? There's about 300 sub chapters, and you being a psychonaut and an awakened being, I would have thought many of those chapters would have struck a chord with you, and most of them, are not that long. Let's say there could be 20 or 30 pages. Um, why is it that you haven't been encouraged to delve into it?
Um, I started this conversation by mentioning the metronome of slavery and pity. Um, and basically, I have put myself on the assignment of reading your book. And in such a in the same way, why in the past I could no longer participate in a society as it is, because it was actually they asked too much of me. So I put the brake on. And whenever I put myself on assignments, I sort of experience that same break. So regardless of the content, I would almost say I put myself to a challenge, and that brought me to a halt. It makes it very difficult to finish the piece.
Yeah, so you procrastinate a lot, don't you?
Yes, an extraordinary lot. In fact, I only do the necessary, the bare minimum.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm slowly. Yeah. Sometimes I push myself. Sometimes I relax myself into it, but I'm not there yet. And apart from doing the mandatory work to sustain myself, I barely do anything. I mean, I sport a little lately, but yeah, this is a very big problem in my life, and it also terrorizes my psyche on a regular basis.
Yeah. So in my book, I write about spiritual attachments, and I speak about how we are a conglomerate of spiritual energies. And as we're going through life, depending on the propensity of this human experience, we will attract or expel certain spiritual energies. And so it's evident that you have procrastinating energies, which are always telling you to take the way of water, always taking the lowest possible elevation and the stillest and the most simple. It would never do for you to even to consider um, encroaching on the life of Sisyphus, endlessly pushing the boulder up the hill in an endeavor to achieve something which is evidently, deep in his heart and psyche. And so you have a deep rooted kind of like Messiah complex to be somebody that's achieved something, and yet this energy, it prevents you from doing it. So how do you manage that, Short? How do you look at that, and how do you reckon with that?
Well, yeah, it's a funny thing. It's complex because I definitely have struggled with Messiah complex in the past, and I think, well, at least like a year ago, I stepped off the idea of becoming a world leader, which I was promoting for half a year already. Um, so there's this need, which I explained, for a man to have achieved something and to be something. And in order to do that in the form of an exercise will inevitably fail. In my situation, probably. Um, Instead, I try to let go of that need in order to relax more into just doing something. And that just doing something, if I do that on a regular basis, that might produce something real, which is, in fact, that success that I hope to live this life. So it's very paradoxical. I must do it, and I can't do it in that way, but eventually I won't do it, so it will be produced, something like that. Um, what was your question again?
Well, I mean, how do you fight with if you have a desire to accomplish something, then how do you fight all the demons that prevent you from doing it? Because every day you must get out of bed. Uh, Chastising yourself for your inability to be able to take hold of the horns of the bull and plow your field or to achieve whatever task it is that you want to achieve. Now, what I will say about people being driven, I know what it's like to be driven. I've been driven very, very often in my life. And when I began to write this book, for 8 months, every single day, I was driven to accomplish that task. And it was kind of like something's working through me, helping me to do it. It's like spirit is working through me because it had to be done, it had to be put out there. And so for 8 solid months, that was my design. And, I was very relieved when it was over and I'd done it and I'd got that weight of 14 years of my spiritual development into something which I could share potentially with the world. That's very, very satisfying. But I can't maintain and claim 100% authorship for that because I knew that I was going to have to write the book. I didn't know when. For years, Shorsh, I knew I was going to have to do it. And I used to say, when am I going to write this fucking book then? For the cosmos, I'd say, when am I going to fucking do it? And the answer would be, when the time's right, and whatever, so I'll just continue to live my life. Then all of a sudden, circumstances happened. Then it was time. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know what to say. So I'll just start on the computer and let my fingers do the walking and see what happens. And as soon as the fingers went onto the computer, the inspiration came of every single thing I wrote, 250,000 words in that book, George.
It's very interesting that you say that you can't claim full authorship. And your question to me was, how am I going to tackle this? Well, currently I'm telling myself I don't have to do anything. I'm not this great messianic figure who's gonna bring it all anymore. I am a measly little worm, and and that is fine. And I'm not saying that to degrade myself, but I don't have to be. I don't expect. I try to no longer expect from myself to be this grandiose person, which is eventually also compensation for why do I have to convince the whole world that I'm this great person? What is that kind of insecurity on the level below? And I suspect once I am able to let that go, that something will be produced out of my fingers as well. That's the hypothesis, and basically I'm trying to let myself off the hook there.
Yes. Well, when we look at great people, invariably other people have risen those people up on pedestals. They haven't done it themselves. They haven't said, "Look how great I am. Look, look at all the things I've achieved, and this, that, and the other." They haven't done it like that. They have done something on a consistent basis, which people around them have admired. And so when you've got people like Martin Luther King or Gandhi or Mother Teresa, all of these sort of figures that consistently all their life they've been driven to do something which they have I would think considered to be channeled from a higher dimension because they wanted to achieve something for the future of humanity. It wasn't about their self-aggrandizement, and so I think that's how it worked with lots of people because they were working as catalysts for humanity. Now, funny enough, we should talk on this subject because I'm reading currently Jordan Peterson's second book, Maps of Meaning. Are you familiar with that book?
Maps of Meaning is his first book.
Oh, it's his first book. That's right. The second one was 12 Rules of Life. So the first book, it took him 15 years to write, and it's a very, very in-depth assessment of the human being, human psyche, and what it is to be a human being, starting off with neurology, psychology, philosophy, and all these different sorts of things. And today I was reading an excerpt by Nietzsche, and Nietzsche said in relation to genius people, um, the person that comes about who has the label of genius bestowed upon them is only an accumulation of all the things that the human race needed to create and provide for itself at any given time. And this energy could have been building up for a long, long time. Let's just say Gandhi, with the separation of India from the British Empire, that had been building up in the Indian psyche for a long, long time. And so Gandhi took the position, and then he was deemed to be great and this, that, and the other. But it was the energy behind Gandhi as a human being that made Gandhi what he is. It was the timing that made Gandhi what it is, what he was. And so, what Nietzsche said is that nobody in particular reserves the right to call themselves genius in any shape or form, because what they are doing, they are just grabbing hold of the baton of society, of the zeitgeist of the time, and they are passing it to somebody else. A point in time.
And it just so happens that the baton at that moment is also being cast by Zeus himself, and he just takes the form and executes it.
Yes.
He follows the flow. And then you come to the explanation how Jordan Peterson explains the Egyptian Bible in his 14-minute YouTube video, where he basically says the gods are psychic modalities of groups of people.
Yes.
And usually it's the orderly state, which is Osiris. And then something happens, Set takes over, chaos emerges, and we scramble back the old tradition in combination with Horus the Eye, which is actually currently happening in our society. Um,
Well,
yeah,
when we look across the whole globe in all different cultures, we have this symbolism of Set and Seth. Sorry, Osiris or Set or Seth, whatever they're called. So we've got the sun rising and the moon rising, and so the sun chases away the moon, and the moon chases away the sun. So we've got this yin and yang. We've got this dichotomy of the world, and of course, from that then it is said that biblical corpses were derived with heaven and hell, and the dichotomous nature of what it is to be a human being. because we are all blessed with a left and a right side of the brain. And apparently, every single living creature, animal on this planet has the split brain. And so that is a natural phenomenon in itself. Why is that? Well, because every single creature is a reflection of the dichotomous nature of the cosmos. There has to be yin and yang, there has to be polarities, there have to be left and right, hot and cold, and all these things for there to be any manifestation, because you can't have a manifestation of one thing if there isn't anything else to have a comparison against. Otherwise, it would be nothing. So therefore, to be something, you need the polar opposite. And so out of the polar opposite of the human psyche is created all of these religions and mythologies that we create via our stories. And so it's a fascinating experience when we delve into all this, and we see that how the whole world, humanity, forever has been doing this. And some people take a certain allegiance to one philosophy or religion, and others another one. You know, in my book, I look very, very closely at Christianity, Buddhism, and other religions. And I conclude that Christianity is a direct reflection of the struggle that the human being has forever with its own psychology. And so everything in the Bible is a parable of what is going on inside of our minds. And so I speak about that in some depth. And I speak about the nature of faith, the nature of prayer, the nature of confession, and how all these things, their ultimate goal is to bring peace within the mind and heart of the human being.
Of course.
So let me just hold that thought. I'm just gonna use the toilet, mate, and I'll be back in 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty, round two.
I think society is an eternal war between total freedom and liberty and happiness, and the consciousness of the knowledge that you need to restrain yourself in a certain way and be productive. And they both have an argument. The far extremes go too far, and they are processes that reinforce themselves, and therefore always need to be corrected by the other. It's a big pendulum swing. We are currently in the pendulum swing where, well, I think the pendulum is already returning, but the left is currently gone too far and is screwing up the whole society in such a way that it becomes very visible to everybody. And there will be a lot of support to make a correction to the right. And inevitably, the right will go too far down the line, but that's not yet happened. Um, um,
It's the constant flux between the two polarities. You see, as a world, as 8.5 billion human beings, apparently, we move in Mexican wave type formations. We latch onto something which is pleasing and serves us, and we take it to the extreme whereby it becomes a detriment to us, and it would present our destruction if we continued any further. So then, just like a Mexican wave, it has to come back, and then it will go too far back because the momentum's built up so powerful that it'll end up far over on the other side, and then it'll have to come back again. And so, what I've seen looking at the world is that these waves were huge initially, because it took a long time for them to become global. But now, in an instant, these things become global. So the way I see the world now and human consciousness, if you look at this, like 2,000 years ago, the waves would go, ooh, ooh, like Genghis Khan, Roman Emperor, Pol Pot, Stalin, coming up to Hitler and all these things. Well, the parameters are getting smaller and smaller and smaller because the world is becoming more and more connected, and we know what's going on in the other parts of the world in an instant. And so we can begin to correct these things much more sooner than we could before. Um, and you see what's happening now in the whole thing with the Israel and Palestine and Ukraine and Russia and doubtless half a dozen other countries around the world. The powers that be are seeing how far they can push it, how much energy they can milk from it, because the powers that be now are the ones that profit from pushing, 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 pushing until the momentum of the world goes, hey, you're going too far now, and then it has to come back. It isn't. I don't think it's a natural thing anymore. I'm not sure whether it was ever natural or whether it was always governed by certain organizations, institutions, groups of people who are powerful. And so, what they're doing again now, they're trying to mold the world into a way in which they consider it would be best to go. And so they then push the human psyche to see how far they can stretch us, to see how far they can learn about us, to see what limits there are to this current human psyche. And at this moment in time, I made videos about this not too long ago. And I'm saying, does anybody actually care that we're on the precipice of a third world war? Does anybody actually care that we could be on the precipice of another huge government imposition of another variety of a virus or all these sort of things? Because it seems that the powers that be, they can do these things at will and at random, and the people are so dumb, they're so asleep that they don't even revolt about it anymore. What do you think about that? I would have thought, Sjors, people, they would be storming the Bastille every single day because the shit these masters are getting away with is just fucking incredible as far as I can see.
Um, I think um, the they allow the left to go so far that it becomes very obvious that they are wrong in the extreme. Then they let the right trample them and make a clean ship, uh, probably knowing that they're going to go too far, and then there's going to be a correction again, and we'll have more of a middle way. I need to
But it's like a
move this
bird,
little
isn't it?
room.
Because they're both the two wings of the same bird, yeah?
Yeah.
So when you
Um,
look at a bird flying in the sky, it's always doing this. It's fluctuating between the two, trying to find equilibrium between the two wings, trying to find the most aerodynamic situation. But the point is, you see, the powers that be, they can't just set their course on whatever is aerodynamic because they need to mold the people. They need to influence the people. So therefore, they always need to be pushing out the parameters to get the people's undivided attention. And that's the only way they can hurt them. It's like a farmer with his sheepdog. If the farmer didn't have the sheepdog, then the sheep wouldn't, do anything. They wouldn't respond. And so I think it's exactly the same.
well, it's a very difficult question. What are they doing? What is God doing? Um, and where's the line? What are they planning, and what is happening by divine intervention? Ooh, I hope the sound is okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
Um, it's a very wait. This is too much distraction for me. I need to get to a different room. One moment. Right. So basically, what I'm saying is, um, it is uh, it is very difficult to say where the elite's plan stops and where God's hand plan takes over. Um, um, you see, my housemate, he discovered in the Bible a certain. He discovered a very important link between star constellations and the verses in the Bible. And because he found that out, he figured out that there's a chronological timeline written through the lines in the Bible. And because of that, he pointed out the end times, and he predicted a couple of dates, particularly the dates of the four horsemen and the end of times, which is two of them have passed, two are still coming up, and 2040 is the rising of Christ. His interpretation is that Jesus is not going to come in person, but in spirit, yada yada. But it is the elites that are also orchestrating uh, um, um, this unfolding this unfolding of history, and but they do it by the date exactly, and we've already concluded that it's virtually impossible to plan these things in exactly such a precise manner, and therefore it's it's impossible to distinguish between the elite's plan and God Himself. Um, um, it's so hard.
Well, you see, when we look at certain predictions and manifestations, let's say Armageddon, tribulation, um, um, uh, if we look at the end times, which was predicted in the Bible, and there are many people that really do have an adherence to that and believe it absolutely. So it's going to happen, but it's only a matter of time. And so I say then to Christians in my videos, I say, well, look, if you believe every single word in the Bible and it's all the word of God and it all must be perfect and wonderful, and when the final reaping comes, then you will be saved and the rest of us miscreants will burn in hell, you must be looking forward to it. So you must be looking forward to Revelation, because that then will be your point of being saved, and then you will go on to the promised land. And so, by conscience, by good conscience, every single Christian must confess that they are actually looking forward to the Armageddon, when this dimension will be no more. And so, if you look at that, well, there's a lot of energy behind that, Sjors. And if these people are very, very powerful, then they're working towards something. And if they truly believe that Armageddon has to come around, well, they are soldiers of God. And so it must be down to them to do it. And so maybe there is a death wish with certain cults on this planet. And that's why they're heading towards a global holocaust and all these sort of things, because maybe they don't even think that it's the end of the world and this that, and the other. Even if they just want a paradigm shift. You see, if there is this ultimate Armageddon, and if there is one survivor, whether it's China, Russia, or America, well, that particular superpower has jurisdiction over the whole world then, and they can implement whatever ideology that they deem to be the most befitting. And so, well, you see, if you've got a bout of cage fighting, well, everybody's building up to the elimination process. I mean, at the end of the day, the human being is all about the elimination process. It's always eliminating something and trying to seek out something new and bring something new in, isn't it? And so I think the way the powers that be look at this world is that, and it is said that they've all got their underground bunkers all over the world. And so they've worked out how long they would need to sit it out and this, that, and the other. And I don't think they're too bothered about any Holocaust or any minimizing of the human race or breaking down everything that we have at this moment in time, because they're in for one huge regime change whereby they are lords and master over the whole globe, and it's all going to be how they want it to be. So, how's your thoughts on that?
I think it's very logical, um, because um, well, whenever I talk to a woke person, for example, my disgust can rise really quickly. And I also believe that their mentality is bringing about a lot of destruction in our world and has consequences that we really don't want. So, in a sense, we are always in an information war because there are consequences, and our current worldview is the view that is, according to your own belief, the best for humanity. So even in the sense of what, yeah, your own belief is the belief that you think is best for humanity, and therefore you want to try to get the people to your side always. And about the part where they are killing most of the humans that are currently alive, um, and whether I'm happy with that or not. Um, um, uh, well, um, it's quite a thing to say something like that in public, but honestly, um, let me just first say I'm happy I'm not the guy who has to do it.
Hmm.
Um, but if there's like a big consequence for people who took another road, and they are finally being revealed by payment of their lives that they were wrong, and you are blessed with health and a furthering of the exploration in the human body, I that, yeah, that is a blessing.
Yeah, but it depends on who wins, doesn't it?
Well, I don't believe the bad guys who are in the upper echelons of power. I don't think they will lose at all. In fact, I think this realm is being ruled by Satan, and that is never going to change. I do believe that the people who do the right thing, and I'm not, well, I believe the people who do the right thing, whatever it may be that is the right thing, that they will get the grace of slipping through the cracks and living a good life and getting the blessings, and by their fruits you will recognize them. Yeah, I do believe that. And I do believe in the coming 16 years, we're going to see a big reduction of the amount of people on this planet. And I also believe that there is going to be a perceptual change of power, but in reality, it's the same people who are staying in power, and that's not going to change. It's just the people that are going to believe the good guys are in the power again. And we're currently in the phase where we realize slowly, and it's also in the theater, that we see that the bad guys are in charge.
Hmm. So, I mean, when I'm looking at the World Economic Forum and the New World Order and all their plans, which I can gather, well, they want complete jurisdiction and they want to standardize the whole of the world. and so they don't want any borders. They want a standardization of currency, belief, language, and all these sort of things. And I look at that and I go, well, okay, borders being dissolved, it can't be a bad thing in one respect, because we're one species on one planet, and so we should be able to roam freely with our fellow man. However, at the cost of that, we lose culture. Culture has been very, very important, and it's a beautiful thing. All over the world, when I was younger, traveling all over the world, just going from one country to the next in Europe was a vast difference in culture, from France to Spain to Britain to Greece and all these places. Wonderful different cultures, and their languages and the foods and all this sort of thing. Well, all that's being dismantled at the cost of trying to get us to live with each other and dissolve our differences, because the differences, when they come about, they are quite dangerous. And so when we have particular leaders, i.e., with the whole rising of Nazi Germany, and Mussolini, and you look at Pol Pot and Stalin and all these people. Once one man has a position whereby he's got governance over millions and millions of people, well, that is the greatest detriment that the world could ever be in. So therefore, we do need a democracy, a global democracy. We do need like some sort of galactic council, which is going to have jurisdiction of intelligent people, which are going to be looking at each individual conflict and working out what is the best for humankind. And so, if we look at what's going on in Europe over the last 20 years, then they've been breaking down all the borders superficially, and we're all one family now. And so, it's very, very unlikely that we're going to be invading each other. And so, that was the whole reason the European Union was created initially. It was a trade facility with three countries initially, wasn't it? To make trading between Britain and Germany and France, these sort of countries. So there'd be no real interest to invade each other, because it would economically be a disaster. So, okay, now we've got 27 countries, I think it is, in Europe, and the world, or the European Union, is trying to encroach a little bit more to get one more of the Ukraine, and slowly, slowly, encroach on this level of standardization, because we've still got countries, dictators, who don't want to embroil themselves in the global standardization. So we've got China, we've got Russia, and a few other stratified countries. But I think globally, then, that's what the intention is. And if it brings global peace at the cost of culture, I suppose it's a price that the human beings got to pay. But it's a sad indictment of the human being, because we would have given up so much. We would have given up all of our diversity, all the wonderful cultures around the world, just because we couldn't fucking live with each other on a global scale.
You say many things. Um, I don't understand why you're such a proponent of democracy. I mean, the idea of democracy, real democracy, honest democracy, sounds good and appealing. And I also believe that when people are presented with the truth in a manner that they can understand, that the good choices would be made. But it's such a propaganda war, and our current forms of democracy are a facade. And so, on the other hand, having a dictator can be a lot more practical, because you don't have to fight through endless bureaucracy. So I don't know. I think the big campaign of promoting democracy in the past few hundred years, or maybe past 100 years, has been mainly to bring about the facade for them to be able to concentrate power more and more. Um, Cultures. Uh, Yeah, it's one of my attachments, I guess. I'm not really sure. It's a difficult subject. Cultures arise not in a day. They have their value in a sense. Um, uh, it's too difficult for me to give much comment on that. And the idea where we're going to evolve to, I mean, uh, it's very difficult to say.
Yeah, it's amazingly complex, and the thing is, you see, I mean, me being as old as I am, I remember traveling when the world was much smaller, and just going over the English Channel into France was amazing cultural diversity, and it was a beautiful, incredible experience for me then. And even when I was growing up, people used to speak about Paris and the Champs Elysees and all these wonderful things. Yeah, they all were wonderful when they were French. Now they're European and they're not so wonderful. The luster has vanished from them, and now it's tarnished. And you've got all different sorts of creeds living there, dwelling there, all different sorts of cultures. The Parisian has gone out of the subjects of Paris, and it's like the Londoners. Who's a Londoner anymore? You go to London, we've got about 80% ethnicity, and there's no Londoners in London anymore. There's none of that culture anymore, and so we've lost all that. So that is a travesty as far as I'm concerned. But when we look at the options of what we have managed to come up with at this moment in time, we've come up with communism, didn't work. We've come up with socialism, didn't work. We've come up with democracy, doesn't work. And so when we look now at the difference between China, Russia, and America and Europe, well, I think they're all much of a muchness because they're all different degrees of being dictators. Because we know now that in the Western world there isn't any democracy. It is in actual fact a dictatorship because all they're doing, they are creating the illusion of democracy. When democracy, true democracy, is probably vanished at least 50 years ago. So we don't have democracy anymore. We just have this stupid, superficial pretense and farce, and that's embarrassing. And it really is an insult into the intelligent human being. So the West, America and Europe, they're acting a little different to Russia and to China. The difference between Russia and China, they accept. They go, yeah, it's a dictatorship pretty well. I mean, when you got the president like Putin, who's been president now for 30 years or whatever, and he doesn't ever intend to stand down. Obviously, it's a dictatorship. And I don't know what the leaders are like in China, but, they want it in to be a certain way. It's most certainly communism. I think the West is heading for communism. It's most certainly heading for a very high level of socialism, whereby all of the so-called liberties which a democracy affords us are going to be eradicated. What do you think about that?
Scary, inevitable. The way things are going right now, I mean, society is being destroyed and deconstructed in such a way that you're going to have to go to a form of communism because there isn't going to be enough jobs for people to support themselves. And when too big a group cannot feed themselves anymore, you're going to get socialism. But I think it's by design in order for us to lose a lot of personal freedom so they can outroll their rescue, reconstruction, build back better ideas. I think that system is going to take control for a while. I think humanity will resist it and take back over and maybe enter in a better period because we are at the end of the biggest dark ages in, let's say, 24,000 years.
Yeah, we have kind of got to the end. We are now scraping the bottom of the barrel of this so-called democracy with capitalism because all the resources have been exploited, and everyone's starting to panic. And see, when I look into the war with Ukraine, and I listen to people who know a lot about history and stuff like that, they will all tell you that, well, it's all about resources because Ukraine is a massive country. It's got massive resources. Russia want it, China want it, and the West want it. And we're scraping the bottom of the barrel with the world's resources that we can't afford just to let it go. And so that's what the real issue is about. It's got nothing to do with anything else. But of course,
Well,
there's always
it also helps in enforcing a big meat grinder where we get rid of a lot of people. So population reduction is a small part of it as well.
yeah, so just keep culling the masses, and I speak about where would the world be now if we never had the advents of the past 100 years, if we never had Pol Pot, if we never had Mao Zedong, if we never had Stalin, if we never had Hitler, if we never had all the other forms of genocide and wars that have gone on around the world, if we never had those, what would the population be? Because already we're at panic stations with what it is now. And so when you look at the chart, Sjors, if you look at the chart, and it started up the 1800s, and then it went into the 1900s, and then it got into the 2000s, all of a sudden it went woo, and it's going exactly vertical, and there's no capping to this. And if we allowed it to continue for the next 50 years, I don't know what sort of figures that there would be. I tell you what I did do. I speculated that if there were no wars, the world population would probably be about 50 million, 50 billion at this moment in time. I then went on to Google and I put in a question, what would the prospective population of the world be had there not been all these deaths in the war? And straight away, the first one I came to was 50 billion. Of course, it's very speculative, higher and some lower. But if we hit the mean on 50 billion, what will we do with 50 billion population,
Well,
man?
I think if your infrastructure can handle it, I think the number, like Elon Musk says, isn't the problem. But I don't think we could build so fast. I don't think it would scale up so fast, so it would inevitably lead to wars before that ever is reached.
Yeah. So when I take DMT and DMT tells me that the world is absolutely perfect, when I was first told this, and I felt it, and to me, in all my sensibility, the world was absolutely perfect in relation, regardless of wars and murder and all the rest of it. There is something which is over and above the pink ape egoic machinations that doesn't enable us to see the perfect world. But over and above that, DMT told me that the world was perfect. And then for 2 weeks, I was contemplating on this long and hard. And then I had the revelation that, well, the world is in actual fact perfect because we can't see where we're going. But who can see? Something can see. The cosmos can see. The Gaia can see. Human consciousness en masse can see. And we're not concerned with the individual. We're not concerned with millions and billions because ultimately there's going to be a lineage which is going towards a future where it is going to be. In a higher level of perfection. And so when we look now at the world, killing millions and doing this, that, and the other, I just say to myself, well, look at how we're living now. We in the West are living like kings. Can you imagine? We live better than any king that's ever been on this planet. And they were the pinnacle of power and progress. We now, every single one of us, have got more facilities and more freedoms and more pleasures than any king ever had. And so we're already at a very, very high level of perfection in lots of places in the world. Obviously there's lots that aren't, and the reason why we are in a higher perfection like Europe or the Western world is because we've exploited continents like Africa and Asia and all the rest of it. And so if you look at the human being as a species and not as any individuated nations or individuals, I think we'd be better be able to see the wood from the trees, because it's our egoic propensity to look at, oh, little me, poor me, and we think about how we are being affected. Does anybody think about how Africans are being affected to this day, how Indians are being affected, how there's like, billions of them living in abject poverty, starving every single day and dying of all different sorts of diseases, which we take for granted that we've got cures for. And so I just think that, the whole world needs to wake up. And it does, in actual fact, need to have one group consciousness. It has to need to have
Wait,
one
wait,
group
wait. You say the
awareness.
world has to wake up.
Yeah.
Can you describe me in a nutshell how they are now and what needs to change?
Well, I mean, I think the levels of communication have to be more honest. Um,
Yeah.
we have to take into consideration the spiritual facet of the human being, because we can no longer continue to deny that this is a spiritual paradigm. And you see, we've reached so many impasses with our development, because we will not accept that we are primarily a spiritual entity. We insist that we are the fiction of the corporality of what this thing is, when our scientists have been telling us for 120 years that there's no corporality here at all. Hello, people, wake up. So we need to be educated into the paradox of this bizarre thing that we've got going on. And if we go back to trying to engage as spiritual beings, let's see where that would take us as a species, because I'm pretty sure it will take us into something which has far more longevity than the fiction of believing that we are corporeal.
Okay. Um,
So, what do you feel about that? I mean, that's the whole thing about waking up, isn't it?
I don't know. Um, since I smoked DMT, I did. Um, I found a lot of peace in there because it made the concrete world not the only resort that we have, so to speak. So it made me more aware of a bigger horizon where beings of existence can live, and so that was sort of a relief. But I tried that way of manifesting, and it brought me to my knees and nearly destroyed me. And now I'm on the path where I have to abide by certain instructions in order to get the grace, which is trust and safety, and fruits, haha, real fruits, material fruit.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know. You sound a bit like someone who is waging the info war and striving for utopia, um, while in fact there are big currents of thought ways, big rivers, and they are floating in certain directions. We are in a time when gods are going to be replaced temporarily, and we're going to be ensued in chaos. I think so many things are already on a track that there the idea of we have to bring about an idea into the consciousness of people. I think that is no longer necessary, and also not a viable solution. I think we're gonna by the theater that is today's world. The people are going to be driven in a certain direction, and clashes are going to come, and new directions are inevitably going to flow forth from that, and that is okay, and that is good. We don't have to do anything at this point other than take good care of yourself and don't do the bad stuff.
Yeah. How many times did you take DMT?
I think about 10 times.
Right. So over this past so many years since I've been engaging in that, I think I took about 200, and every single one of these experiences was transformative to me, and many occasions I obliterated the ego, and I was within cosmic consciousness, and I saw the world from that perspective. And I was told on one occasion that everything is me, it's been me forever and ever, and it'll be me forevermore, and there's nothing other than me. Well, when I came out of that, I had to question what was me. And I finalized that me must be consciousness. There is only consciousness. And so everything else is a fiction here. And so that's why I know the world and the cosmos is perfect. And so it's just like when we go to sleep at night and we have a dream. Well, you think everything's real in that dream. And, you're fighting or you're fucking and you're doing all this sort of stuff. And then when you wake up, you go, oh, well, it's only a dream. Well, this waking experience, of course, is only a dream, according to the Buddhists, the Hindus of 2,000 years. And so that's where I am now. And I'm looking at this as just a movie. It's just a story. There's no reality to it at all. But it's some sort of a dream hologram that collective consciousness is creating. And the reason why it doesn't matter and it's perfect is because nobody actually gets hurt, because there is nobody here. The physical reality isn't a thing. Our spirits continue forever and ever and ever. So therefore, how can anything be wrong here? And so when we wake up from a dream, we go, thank God that was a dream. Well, we're all going to wake up from this dream and go, thank God this was a dream, probably. And so that's why it's perfect. And so because I've seen, it's like, I have a dream, I've climbed to the top of the mountain. I've seen what's on the other side. And so I don't have an investment in all the fiction because everything is propaganda. Everything is Maya. Everything is contrived by the human ego, and it is 100% fiction. But I do realize, Sjors, and I'm pretty sure you'll have an allegiance to this. If you have the propensity of mind to get out there without any psychedelics, you take psychedelics, then you're in trouble. And so I think that I don't think you'd shy away from speaking about any of your mental issues over the past. And I think now what you're doing is you're grabbing hold of the fiction because it's the most stable for your mind. But for my mind, I can afford to play with all of these different paradigms of consciousness because it doesn't affect me in an adverse way. You see, so that's why I'm not clinging to the fiction of this world, because every single thing, as far as I can see, is fiction. And all we need to do is follow back the route from any single thing, follow the media back to the source. And what have you got? Where's the truth? No truth at all. If anybody should go over to Ukraine and try and find out what's going on there, how would we ever know? Because there's too many fingers in pies. There's no truth. It's not possible to have truth. There is an energy and a pervasive energy which is going on, and it's been going on forever. We have wars here, wars there, and we have cyclones here, and all different sorts of stuff. That's the nature of the yin and the yang with this world. It has to happen because out of all this stuff emanates a more mature, advanced state of consciousness. Because the only thing going on here is consciousness is gaining consciousness. And when they say that the cosmos is expanding, it ain't the cosmos that's expanding. It's consciousness that's expanding. And the only reason that they say the cosmos is expanding, because their consciousness is expanding when they learn a little bit more about their consciousness. You see? And so by the time they realize that this is all in the dream or the mind of God, then we'll just chill the fuck out. And I just wonder what the world would look like, Sjors, when we finally all woke up into a higher state of consciousness where we knew that, where we all knew that.
Yeah, well, I guess every further cycle is a little bit closer to that point.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I agree with your story, but you haven't answered the question of how to approach such a thing yet. Because I do believe there are ways of screwing up your life completely and making it a nightmare. And that is something that needs to be avoided, I believe. Like, however we're going to do it, you eventually want to have a peaceful mind with food in your mouth and a house around you in most cases. And so the question will be how to to get that, and what's the strategy, and that's what we're actually talking about
Well,
still.
you see, if you look at it from the individuated perspective, then you will never solve the problem. You see, I don't look at it from an individuated perspective. I look at it from this perspective. I know from personal experience and global experience that trauma brings about evolution in consciousness. Now, there is no disputing that every single war that's ever been perpetrated on this planet, there is something that's beneficial come out of it for the people that survived. And so, let us just not be so precious. Let us not be so precious about our own individuation, because we don't matter. Because we're not matter in any case.
We
It's
don't matter.
conscious.
Wait, we don't matter in the big part of things. In other people's lives, we don't matter that much. Yes, but in your life, you matter.
Well, look at it this way. If there is a nuclear war, and if there is, billions of people that perish, then I'm pretty sure that human consciousness will vastly change overnight, because they will absolutely be positive that that never needs to happen again. And so, by hook or by crook, that facility of doing that will be completely eradicated. There will be a power source which doesn't trust a single human being. We've got everybody looking at everybody all the time, and it could never happen again. So therefore, we start to govern globally, global consciousness, because we can't trust the individual. And that's the thing with a human being. We have to get into a hive mind. However, that's possible. And the only way we're going to get into a hive mind is if our consciousness takes a leap exponentially, that we wouldn't even consider war. Because if you look at this moment in time, all the people around the globe, there's not a single one, to my knowledge, who is out in the street with a banner saying ban the bomb, or, ban the wars, or,
But we've
let's
already
do.
had that moment. We had
I know
Hiroshima. What
we've
are you
had
talking
it. We've
about?
had it. That's right. But now
Yeah.
everyone's kind of like, they don't give a fuck. Everyone's just too busy eating the pizza and burger and looking into the phone. They don't give a fuck. Human consciousness doesn't give a fuck anymore. So therefore, it needs that lesson to bring human consciousness back into the position where it does give a fuck. And so we need a great reset. We do. And I think globally, that will be the best thing that the human race could ever happen to it, because in its complacency, it isn't going to evolve anything like within the time parameter which is necessary. It needs to do it now. We need to change course.
Well, it is happening. It is exactly happening, and that big catastrophe you're talking about is happening, and it's going to bring about. I think the more conservative mindset is one of taking responsibility and restraining yourself, and I think it is necessary, and it's also happening. So what you're talking about is happening, and whether that's an actual hive mind or just the same kind of thinking that people all adopt at the same time because of the circumstances doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you see, when I read books like Gulag Archipelago, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, or I
Mhm.
read Viktor Frankl's internship in the Nazi concentration camps, these people that had those levels of experience and then they come out, they go on to change the world. And Dostoevsky is another one. He did 4 years in the Gulag. So these sorts of people, when we have these levels of trauma, that's when the human being really comes into its own. And that's a catalyst for personal and global evolution. And so I think, looking back at all the wars that have ever been perpetrated on the planet, they've all been a collective point of evolution. And if you look at evolution globally, if you look at, say, like Zeus sitting up on the clouds, looking at Earth, making machinations, making the sea tempest, and creating vortexes here and there to destroy this and that and change the course of reality. Well, all these things that have been done have brought the world into this particular situation where it is now. And it's got a lot going for it. It really does have a lot going for it, but it's got to get a few of these little niggly things out of the way. And these little niggly things is that we don't have any fucking global direction. We need global direction. Can you imagine if we had global direction, the things that we could do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, but it's so hard to imagine because we've been under control of propaganda for generations. So having that out of the way, I don't know if it's possible, but it would be an explosion of creativity and abundance and flourishing in my mind. Um, but I don't know if it's reasonable. I
No,
don't know
yeah,
if it's
it's a
attainable.
utopia. It's a utopia because I don't believe that we could ever be like that in this state of consciousness. I believe human consciousness has to change drastically. And, if we have any allegiance to the paradigm shifts going from Pisces into Aquarius, out of the Kali Yuga into the next state of higher spiritual evolution, I think, there's a lot to be said for that. And I think, well, it just has to run its course. How many other people, Sjors, have debated like we have through thousands of years? Not online. We've been sitting in a tavern or been sitting in a cave or in a straw hut and we've been philosophizing about mankind and, where's the village moving? Where's the country moving? And all these sorts of things. So there's nothing new under the sun. We've been doing it forever and we always will, I guess. And that's I think, consciousness exploring itself. Consciousness doesn't know. Consciousness probably doesn't care per se. Why would we care about any individual dream that we had? Whether we erased it, or never remembered it, why would we? It's just a dream. Some dreams are big dreams. Some dreams are powerful. Some dreams affect the living entity because we'll learn from them and we'll change direction moderately. But most of the dreams are meaningless, aren't they? So I would think most of the things that go on in this world are pretty meaningless, really.
Yeah, and it's the ones that change the course that are impactful and probably the reason why we're here anyway.
Yeah. So we've been pretty philosophical in this discussion. We've done 1 hour and 25 minutes. If we look at rounding it up in the next 15 minutes, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to convey to the world?
Nothing,
Nothing.
really, nothing. No, I would want to say, holy shit. Last year I nearly lost everything. I mean, I'm talking about having an eternal mind battle with mental institutions that would tell me I'm crazy, and I'm telling them I'm not. And that would have been a hellish world where I would have been stuck in for the rest of my life potentially, my children being taken away from me and not being able to see them, my children, my house, my everything. I could have been homeless. And that was averted at the last moment by a guy who convinced me to also let go of the idea of becoming a world leader. And he did it in a way that he could mythologically explain why it was very logical what I was doing, but that I had to not join the white pyramid as the opposition to the black pyramid who currently rules, but you have to join the smallest pyramid, which is only Jesus above you and you below that. That's the only one. And because I was at the point of nearly losing it all and being on the verge of oblivion, I was able to not know 100% that the path that I was taking would never work, but it was probably because it was manifesting my doom. And that was pretty real and pretty close enough for me to say, okay, I yield. And I've been working for the past year, um, dealing with fears on a daily basis. Because after I let go of that fiery idea of becoming the leader of the world, I realized below that there was very little self confidence left inside of me, and I was really a small person, dealing with fears of not being able to make it and stuff, and all the stuff we talked about today. And because of these reasons, I decided to put my chips, my coins, on the idea that this guy who is helping me out of this trouble is presenting to me, and he's also promising the fruits. And I like putting my chips on this endeavor right now. And if he's right, I'm gonna be very successful and have a good life. So I'm very curious, and I hope to be able to report later to you guys how successful I am. And um, yeah, that's stuff from my life that I would want to share with people.
Well, I mean, that's an amazing thing because being on the brink of potential meltdown, mental meltdown, if you got sectioned and your mind didn't recover, it couldn't see the logic, what your friend was saying, that you're going off on a messiah complex thing, what you're saying is not that reasonable, really. And if you come back from that and if you take Jesus, as your guide, then you live a much more humble and fulfilling life. And so, well, that's an amazing thing. And how or why would anybody want more than that, more than your own salvation? I think that is a fantastic thing to be saved from hell. Literally. And so in a circumstance like that, I could see very easily why anybody would want to have an allegiance with the light, Jesus, the way, the word, and so from your vantage, well, I mean, that's all an amazing thing. And so, from my perspective, what I would impart to the world is that just to appreciate what is actually going on here, like what you've got now. You're doing it. You're appreciating it. Um, you are not fighting and striving and throwing your life away doing things you don't want to do. You escaped death effectively, and now you're embracing life. And so this is what I say to people in my videos. I'm always pointing out the beauty of this world and how to find the beauty in your mind. And I'm absolutely convinced that the cosmos is premise, if not love, then it's absolute stillness, devoid of any of the human trappings. Because when we go deep into a meditation, we can reach our deep inner core, and that's just cosmic consciousness. And when we take psychedelics of any variety, we will also experience certain things like that. We will experience certain powerful higher realms, and we've got all that stuff to look forward to at the end of the day. And so, yeah, I mean, just look around you and don't take it too seriously. Don't get too upset, and just take on board, I suppose, the teachings of Jesus, really, in being humble, kind, loving, considerate, and all that sort of stuff. Because there's no wrong in that, is there? There's no wrong in that.
I think there's a lot of right in that. And one last thing I want to convey, which I lately always want to convey in my messages, is get your money in order. Um, because at the end of the day, you can be the best meditator in the world. But if that in itself, and it probably won't, solves your money problem, you're going to go crazy anyway.
Right.
And you're
It
in the
depends how.
position, you personally, you're in the position that the government gives you monthly money and enough to survive, and you're at the age and situation where they're not gonna keep pulling your leg and trying to get you to jump through hoops, and so you've got that covered. And that is actually one of the reasons why you're able to be peaceful, because if it was slowly descending into something that would not sustain, you would need to find other stuff, and your stress would force that upon you.
Yeah, and so I look at this and I go, well, I'm ahead of my time. because this is the way the world's going. It's going into a universal credit, and this is one thing that Elon Musk is often, speaking about. It's not going to be long before we're on universal credit. When the AI, finally puts its foot down, then there's going to be very little for the human being to do. And so I'm kind of like pioneering. I'm setting out the path for how human beings could actually live. But I don't know whether how many of them are going to be able to do it, because how conditioned are they into doing and achieving and being in that rat race and all that sort of thing? How many people could just be at peace and still every moment of the day?
That's the beginning of a whole nother conversation, and a very difficult one. And it's definitely going to be one of the challenge of the future generations.
Yeah, and so we've got all that to look forward to, or not. And so great to talk to you again, Sjors. And so we'll do it again as and when. And so in the interim, stay free, bro.
I'll try.
I think that's all we can do. We'll try.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Aaron. And if there are people still watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Be well. Hope you take care of yourself, and I wish you all the best.
Indeed. So let's go and do it together. See
All
you later,
right.
bro. Enjoy the
Bye
rest of
bye.
your day. Cheers,
You.
Josh.
You.